Ah, the great outdoors. Fresh air, chirping birds, and an itchy, blistering rash waiting to happen. Yep, I'm talking about poison ivy, nature's sneaky little troublemaker. If you've ever wandered off the beaten path only to end up frantically scratching a week later, you know exactly what I mean. Growing up, my dad would always tell us, "Leaves of 3, let it be." And, of course, being kids, what did we do? We ignored that advice. But honestly, poison ivy has got to be one of the best examples of don't judge a book by its cover, because those shiny green leaves don't look half as evil as they actually are. So let's dive in. Today, we're going to chat about some ways to keep that pesky plant under control, a bit about why it's such a nuisance, and maybe share a few stories of what not to do. Trust me, I've got a few. Alright, first things first, identification. If you've got a poison ivy problem, it's pretty important to know what you're up against. Poison ivy is a bit like the sneaky villain in a superhero movie. It looks harmless, blends in with the other plants, and then, bam, it's ruined your week. Most of us know the phrase leaves of 3, let it be, but it's a little more nuanced than that. Poison ivy can actually look different in each season. In spring, it's a bit of a fresh, innocent green, a real wolf in sheep's clothing. By summer, it's a glossy, deeper green, almost taunting us in the heat. And then in fall, it turns this deep, seductive red and orange. Beautiful to look at, but deadly if you get too close. It's like Mother Nature's way of saying, I dare you. The plant has 3 shiny almond-shaped leaves on each stem, and sometimes you'll even spot tiny clusters of whitish berries. And here's a fun fact, poison ivy can actually grow as a ground cover, a bush, or even as a vine climbing up a tree. So, it's everywhere. Now, let's talk about why poison ivy is so good at making us miserable. The culprit is this oily resin called urushiol. Fun word to say, horrible stuff to get on your skin. And here's the kicker, you don't even have to touch the plant to get it. Urushiol can stick around on your clothes, your shoes, and even your dog's fur. I learned that one the hard way. Once, I went hiking with my dog, a cute little furball named Max. Now, Max has this habit of rolling in anything that looks remotely smelly or interesting. And on this particular day, he found a patch of poison ivy. He rolled around like he was at a luxury spa, and I, not realizing he'd just bathed in poison ivy, gave him a big hug. Needless to say, Max was fine, and I spent the next 2 weeks scratching my arms like I was auditioning for a zombie movie. Let's get to the practical part. How do we keep this stuff under control? Well, there are a few methods, but like all good plans, it starts with a solid defense. If you're working in an area where you know poison ivy is lurking, suit up. We're talking long sleeves, gloves, and pants you don't mind getting dirty. Poison ivy is a lot like glitter. Once it's on you, it's hard to get rid of. So, a good layer of protection is essential. And if you do accidentally brush against it, wash everything. Seriously, your skin, your clothes, your shoes, even the laces. Urushiol can cling to surfaces for months. That means if you leave your boots unwashed in the garage, you might just brush up against them in a couple of weeks. And, surprise, the rash is back. One great tip I got from a seasoned gardener is to have a special outfit that's just for poison ivy duty. Throw it in the wash right after you're done, and you won't accidentally spread urushiol all over the place. Now, if poison ivy's already got a foothold in your yard, it's time to put on your battle gear. There are a few ways to go about this. For small patches, you can pull it up by the roots, but you'll need to wear gloves, long sleeves, and maybe even a face mask, because poison ivy doesn't mess around. Digging out the roots entirely is key, because even a small piece left behind can sprout again. Plus, these roots are deep and cling to the soil like a toddler with a favorite toy, so you'll need a lot of patience. If the patch is larger, it's time to bring in some herbicidal reinforcements. Some go-to options that work well on poison ivy are products containing glyphosate, like Roundup Poison Ivy plus Tough Brush Killer, and triclopyr. Look for brands like Ortho Max Poison Ivy and Tough Brush Killer. These herbicides specifically target woody plants like poison ivy and can be applied directly to the leaves. Another option is Crossbow herbicide or Remedy, which is effective for poison ivy and tough on other invasive brush as well. I'll place links below for anyone interested, but a word of caution here. When you use herbicides, be careful around other plants because these aren't picky. They'll take out anything they touch. And if you're spraying, pick a calm, wind-free day to avoid drift. You don't want to accidentally zap the flowers you planted last spring. After you spray, give the herbicide a few days to work its way through the plant. And here's a little secret. If you want to go chemical-free, goats are your best friend. They don't react to poison ivy, so they'll munch it down like it's a gourmet salad. Just make sure you fence off any plants you don't want them sampling. Watching a goat do your dirty work? Now, that's a win-win. So, what happens if you didn't manage to avoid it, and you're now the proud owner of a poison ivy rash? First of all, don't panic. There are ways to ease the itch. Over-the-counter creams with hydrocortisone or calamine lotion can be lifesavers. A cool oatmeal bath can work wonders too. And if the rash is really bad, don't be a hero. Go see a doctor. They can prescribe stronger stuff to help you out. Here's my pro tip. Whatever you do, don't scratch. I know. Easier said than done. But scratching can spread the urushiol around and make things worse. And remember, the oil doesn't spread by itching. It's just your body reacting to the oil wherever it landed. So as much as it feels like the universe is telling you to scratch, try to resist. At the end of the day, poison ivy is just one of those plants that teaches us to respect nature. It's a lesson wrapped in an itchy, blistery package. But hey, look on the bright side. Every time you successfully dodge poison ivy, it's like winning a little game with nature. So, next time you're out in the wild or even your backyard, keep an eye out for those three-leaved foes. And remember, it's not worth the scratch. Let the goats do the work, suit up, and if all else fails, well, there's always calamine lotion. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, leave the leaves of 3B and you'll be itch-free. Catch you next time on the Hills and Holler channel. And if you've got a story about a run-in with poison ivy, share it in the comments. We'd love to laugh, commiserate with you. Until next time, happy trails.